The film begins with a high school student named Takashi, who looks unsure about something. Soon, his friends come and ask him to go home with them. While walking, they chat about the summer tutoring they need to take before going to university. Along the way, they stop to watch their school's baseball team practice. As Takashi watches the game, he starts daydreaming, and it seems to remind him of something. At home, Takashi is still unsure about how to fill out his tutoring form. Instead of deciding, he just goes to sleep. But then, he remembers a DVD he rented that he needs to return. So, Takashi hops on his bike and heads to the DVD rental. While on the road, he accidentally bumps into someone, causing him to fall off his bike. Then, Takashi quickly gets up and apologizes to the person he bumped into. When he looks, he sees a beautiful girl. The girl's name is Azusa Oribe. Strangely, everyone, even her boyfriend, has forgotten about her, including Takashi. Takashi notices that her necklace had fallen, so he hands it back to her. Azusa takes the necklace, looking sad, and quietly walks away, leaving Takashi behind. The next day at school, the homeroom teacher tells the class that tomorrow will be their last summer vacation as high school students. The teacher encourages everyone to keep working hard for their future. After school, Takashi accidentally sees Azusa, the girl he bumped into the day before. He runs toward her. At that time, Takashi didn't realize that Azusa goes to the same school as him. Azusa seems surprised that Takashi still notices her. But when Takashi asks for her name, Azusa understands that he doesn't actually remember who she is. Without saying much, she grabs his hand and takes him somewhere. Azusa brings Takashi to the school's baseball practice. She tries to remind him that she's good at baseball, but Takashi is clueless. He still can't believe that Azusa goes to the same school. He asks for her name again, which makes Azusa frustrated. Soon after, she throws her baseball bat and walks away, leaving Takashi even more confused. He knew something about her seems familiar, but he just can't figure it out. The next day, summer vacation begins. Even though it's a break, many third-year students spend their time attending tutoring classes to prepare for their future college majors. Takashi and his friends are nervous as they start the tutoring, knowing a big tryout exam is coming up. After tutoring, Azusa came to see Takashi. She was really happy because Takashi still remembered her face. Azusa then invited him to a place with a beautiful view. Takashi didn't realize that this was a place they used to visit often. Once again, he asked for her name. This time, Azusa asked Takashi to promise not to forget her name again. She told him her name was Azusa Oribe. Upon hearing that, Takashi thought her name was nice, and Azusa felt happy to hear that. Later that evening, they went to eat together. Takashi took Azusa to a restaurant owned by his friend. While Takashi went inside to book a table, Azusa stood outside looking thoughtful. She watched the workers at the restaurant, and suddenly, Azusa left and went home without saying anything to Takashi. The next day, after tutoring, Takashi's friend Kane came to see him. She invited Takashi to a cafe because she wanted to tell him how she felt about him. But while Kane went to the bathroom, Azusa showed up at the cafe. She nervously asked Takashi if he still remembered her. After thinking for a moment, Takashi finally remembered and said her name. Azusa was overjoyed that Takashi still recognized her. She apologized for leaving him the night before and asked if they could still be friends. But since Takashi didn't really know who Azusa was, he refused her request. Feeling hurt, Azusa left just as Kane returned. At that time, Kane was about to tell Takashi how she felt, but suddenly, Takashi asked to leave early because he had something important to do. He rushed to find Azusa. When he caught up with her, Takashi apologized for rejecting her earlier, and Azusa invited him to walk with her. There, he asked for her phone number, but Azusa didn't have a phone. She took him to the spot where they had the bicycle accident, but Takashi couldn't remember it. Azusa just gave a sad smile because he didn't recall the event. That night, Takashi offered to walk Azusa home, but she refused. Even though Takashi didn't know her phone number or where she lived, Azusa said she believed in miracles. She told him that if they were meant to meet again, they would. Takashi thought it was strange, but he tried to understand. Azusa was happy and kissed him shyly on the cheek before leaving. As she walked away, Takashi called out and invited her to a barbecue 2 days later. Azusa was overjoyed. When Azusa got home, her mood changed. She became quiet and sad, knowing she had to face her father, who had also forgotten her. He seemed to faintly recognize her, but Azusa had accepted that he didn't fully remember. The day of the barbecue arrived, and Takashi was deep in thought, like he was trying to remember something. As Takashi and his friends gathered, Azusa showed up at the barbecue, just like he had invited her. But nobody recognized her. Soon after, Takashi hesitantly said her name, Azusa Oribe, but his friends were confused. When Takashi told them that Azusa went to the same school, everyone stayed quiet. Then, when Azusa said she was in the same class as Kane, the others laughed, thinking it was strange. Feeling embarrassed, Azusa left the barbecue. Seeing that, Takashi quickly ran after Azusa. When she didn't stop, he asked, feeling frustrated, why she even came. Azusa explained that she came because of his invitation and that she really wanted to see him. But Takashi was confused and asked her to explain more. That day, Azusa finally told him about the strange thing happening to her. Since the second semester of 11th grade, no one had recognized her anymore. Her family, friends, and even her own father forgot who she was. Takashi was shocked and couldn't believe it because he still remembered her. Azusa said that Takashi was special, which is why he could still remember her. But Takashi, feeling confused and upset by everything he heard, slowly walked away from her. The next day, at tutoring, Takashi apologized to his friends about bringing Azusa to the barbecue. But his friends were confused. They didn't know who Azusa was, and none of them remembered her being at the event. Takashi was shocked, wondering why no one else remembered Azusa from the day before. Shortly after, Takashi quickly went to his school to see if what Azusa said was true about being in Class 3D. He checked the list of student names and found Azusa Oribe's name there. He also saw a book on the desk with her name on it. Just then, the teacher came in and asked why Takashi was there. He immediately asked if there was a student named Azusa Oribe in Class 3D. The teacher replied that no one by that name existed at the school. This made Takashi panic, and he rushed out to find Azusa. By evening, Takashi finally found Azusa sitting quietly on a bridge. He apologized for how he acted and asked why everyone had forgotten her. Azusa explained that life and death are part of destiny and no one can control it. With a sad laugh, she shouted that she didn't know why she was forgotten so quickly. And Takashi, feeling determined, promised her that he would never forget her, no matter what. Then, he hugged her tightly. Azusa felt overjoyed that he was willing to remember her. The next day in tutoring class, Takashi wrote Azusa Oribe's name on every page of his notebook, hoping it would help him never forget her. Meanwhile, Azusa spent her summer vacation volunteering at a nursing home. Even though the elderly women there didn't recognize her, Azusa was still happy to help and care for them. One day, Takashi and Azusa went to a DVD rental shop to find their favorite movies. They also had fun playing with bubblegum together. There, Takashi realized he didn't want to forget all the happy moments he shared with Azusa. So, he started recording everything they did together so he could always remember her face. They spent their summer days joyfully, and one day, they decided to wear their school uniforms to make the day feel special. While Takashi was filming, he paused and wondered why such a beautiful girl like Azusa could be forgotten by everyone. On top of the school building, Azusa put a flower-shaped band-aid on her hand and told Takashi not to take it off. She did this so he would keep remembering her. The next day, Takashi visited the nursing home where Azusa volunteered. He saw how happy she was helping the elderly there. That day, Takashi invited Azusa to his house for dinner. After they ate, Azusa and Takashi's older sister played with fireworks together. At one point, Takashi's sister asked him to get a bucket for the leftover fireworks. While Takashi was gone, his sister told Azusa that she would be happy if Azusa started dating Takashi. Azusa stayed quiet after hearing that. When Takashi returned with the bucket, his sister showed him a photo. The photo revealed that Azusa had been to their house before, but none of them remembered that she was actually Takashi's girlfriend. On the way home, Takashi promised that he would make sure his family wouldn't forget Azusa. He remembered her birthday and promised to celebrate it with her after school. Hearing this, Azusa was so happy that she hugged him. Feeling a bit worried, she asked Takashi not to forget his promise. After that, they shared a kiss. When Takashi got home, He checked the refrigerator and found a box of cookies. He asked his older sister where the cookies came from, but she didn't know either. Later, in his room, Takashi ate the cookies, and when he checked his phone, he was shocked. The cookies were actually a gift from Azusa, something they had bought together at the store. At that moment, Takashi realized he had forgotten Azusa. He stayed up all night, not sleeping, because he didn't want to forget her. The next morning, feeling very tired, Takashi went to his tutoring class. He was confused when he saw Azusa Oribe's name written on every page of his notebook. Then, his phone alarm went off, reminding him of a 6 o'clock meeting with a girl named Azusa at the station. That evening, Takashi went to the station. He had forgotten what Azusa looked like, so he used the videos on his phone to find her. Finally, he found Azusa, and they went on a date to a cafe they often visited. While they were there, Azusa asked Takashi about their plans for her birthday, hoping he remembered. But sadly, Takashi didn't remember. Azusa felt heartbroken, realizing that he had forgotten his promise. The next day at the nursing home, an old woman gave Azusa a pair of origami goldfish. The old woman said that one of the goldfish was meant for Azusa's special someone. Azusa was really happy to receive it. But as she was getting ready to go home, another volunteer looked at her like she was a stranger. The volunteer didn't recognize her, and even the old man who always greeted her didn't know who she was anymore. This made Azusa feel even sadder because everyone treated her like a stranger. On that same day, Takashi missed his meeting with Azusa at the station. Kane had come to see him at the tutoring place and confessed her feelings. But Takashi gently rejected her, saying that he already liked someone. Strangely though, he couldn't remember who that person was. Meanwhile, Azusa had waited at the station for a long time and decided to go to Takashi's house to give him the origami goldfish. When she arrived, she met Takashi's older sister, but to her disappointment, Takashi's sister didn't recognize her either. Still, she told Azusa to wait for him. When Azusa went into Takashi's room, she was shocked to see the walls covered with photos and notes. Takashi had been trying so hard to remember her. Azusa was moved to tears, touched by his efforts. But because she didn't want to hurt Takashi anymore knowing he kept trying to remember her, but couldn't. So, Azusa made the difficult decision to take down all the reminders on his wall. When Takashi got home, Azusa had already left, and all the photos and notes about her were gone from his room. Takashi noticed a band-aid on his hand, but since it was damaged and he didn't remember why it was there, he threw it away. The next day at Azusa's house, she felt confused because her family was moving soon. She saw how hard her father worked. Even though they were in debt, he never gave up. At the nursing home, Azusa said goodbye to the old man, as it was her last day volunteering. The old man shared a story about his wife's memory loss, which was getting worse. He explained that even if she forgot him, the time they had spent together couldn't be erased. Hearing this made Azusa realize something important. The following day, summer vacation ended, and Takashi returned to school. His friend asked him to send photos from their second-year memory album, since Takashi had taken and kept the pictures. As Takashi watched a baseball game at school, he daydreamed again, feeling like something was trying to remind him of the past. At home, while preparing to send the photo files, Takashi found a folder named Azusa. He opened it and discovered a documentary video about a girl named Azusa. The video showed that Takashi and Azusa had been dating since second grade. It contained many moments of them together. He also found another folder titled Azusa's Birthday, September 1st. In the video, Takashi had given her a necklace, the same one Azusa had always worn, hoping it would help him remember her. They had made a promise to visit the same place again next year. Slowly, Takashi began to remember everything, and just then, his phone alarm went off, reminding him that it was Azusa Oribe's birthday. Realizing this, he rushed to the place where they had promised to meet a year ago. Meanwhile, Azusa had already arrived at that spot before leaving the city. She told herself it was time to let go of Takashi. At the same time, the video on Takashi's laptop continued to play. In the video, a younger Azusa from second grade tearfully explained that she wanted one last chance to remind Takashi about her. She was heartbroken because Takashi had forgotten her, even though he had promised to always remember. The video revealed that Takashi was the first person to forget Azusa. On his way, Takashi kept repeating Azusa's name to himself, afraid of forgetting her again. But when he finally arrived, Azusa was already gone. As Azusa was leaving, she spotted Takashi from a distance. Instead of going to him right away, she waited to see if Takashi would stay and wait for her. As night fell, he remained there, calling out Azusa's name over and over, hoping she would come. After some time, Azusa approached him, but Takashi didn't recognize her. Feeling deeply sad, she pretended to be someone else, delivering a message from herself. She told Takashi that Azusa couldn't come, and Takashi, filled with regret, cried and begged to see her. At the same time, Azusa, also heartbroken, held back her tears and told Takashi that she was thankful for knowing him. With that, she walked away, leaving him behind. At that moment, Takashi felt confused and emotional. Suddenly, his phone fell out of his pocket. When he picked it up, he noticed a photo tucked behind it, and it was a picture of him with a girl named Azusa. It was then that he realized the girl he had just met was actually Azusa. Filled with regret, he quickly ran off to find her, shouting her name and crying because he hadn't recognized her earlier. At that time, Takashi searched everywhere, calling out for Azusa, but he couldn't find her. In the end, he had to accept that they were separated once again. The film ends with the words, "Promise me you'll never forget me," and then it fades out. The moral lesson from this film is if everyone keeps forgetting you, just wear a giant name tag every day. And if your boyfriend keeps forgetting, skip the tattoo and just get a billboard with your face on it.